Great, thank you, Tin. Yeah, so good afternoon and welcome to you all. Prynhawn da, croeso, and thank you for taking the time to join us today for our Understanding Cholesterol event, which aims to support the National Cholesterol Awareness Month, which is running throughout October in the UK. So my name is Ellie and I'm here alongside my colleague Fern.
Hello, Prynhawn da. Welcome everyone.
And we will be meeting Fern shortly. And we are the Public Health Dietetic Support Workers based in Powys Teaching Health Board. We're based in Bronlees Hospital, but we do cover the whole of Powys. And our main role is delivering Foodwise for Life courses to individuals throughout Powys in order to support weight loss and promote healthy lifestyle choices. And we soon hope to be offering practical get cooking skills sessions as well. So today's focus is we're going to be focusing on understanding more about cholesterol, so what is cholesterol, the risks of high cholesterol and what can be done to reduce or prevent high cholesterol, with particular focus on the dietary choices which affect cholesterol levels. So we plan to run the event for an hour and there will be time at the end for questions. There is also an option to turn your subtitles on for the session, and this can be done by clicking the three dots in the top right hand of your screen, so you can put the subtitles on if you need to. And today's event is being recorded in order that it can be shared more widely afterwards via the Powys Teaching Health Board YouTube channel. So please be assured that your details are not visible. So to start us off with, what is cholesterol? You may have heard of cholesterol from a friend or a family member and they've been told that they've got high cholesterol or that they're going to get a blood test to check their cholesterol levels. But what exactly is it? So cholesterol is a fatty substance which we all have in our bodies and it circulates in our blood. And cholesterol can be found in some foods such as eggs, kidneys and seafood. And so we get cholesterol from our diets, but this is only a very small amount. Most of the cholesterol we have in our bodies is made in the liver. So cholesterol has several functions in our body. It makes up the structure of almost all of the cells throughout the body, and it is needed to make vitamin D, as well as certain hormones and bile, which helps to digest the fat we eat. However, there are different types of cholesterol, and some are better for us than others. So we are now going to share a short video from the British Heart Foundation, which will help to understand the two main types of cholesterol. That will just be loading up now.
Understanding cholesterol. Cholesterol is a fatty substance in your blood. You need it to keep your cells healthy. Cholesterol is carried around your body by proteins in your blood. When cholesterol and proteins combine, they form lipoproteins. There are two main types of lipoprotein. One is good for your health, the other is bad. Non-high density lipoproteins, otherwise known as non-HDL, take cholesterol from the liver to the cells that need it. Too much non-HDL creates a buildup of fatty deposits which narrow your arteries. This can limit the circulation of blood and oxygen and lead to an increased risk of a heart attack or stroke. This is why it is known as bad cholesterol. High-density lipoproteins, otherwise known as HDL, remove excess cholesterol from the cells and take it to the liver where it is broken down and removed from your body. This is why HDL is known as good cholesterol. Ideally, you need a low level of non-HDL and a high level of HDL. This is so there are enough good guys to get rid of the bad guys. High cholesterol typically has no symptoms, and if left untreated, can lead to heart and circulatory diseases. Anyone can have high cholesterol. It can be caused by eating too much saturated fat, being overweight, or not being active enough. Take control of your cholesterol. and find out more about the life-saving research we fund. For more information, visit bhf.org.uk/cholesterol. Understanding cholesterol.
Great. So hopefully that short video from the British Heart Foundation has given you a more understanding of the main two types of cholesterol. So just to recap, there are two main types, which are HDL, which is known as the good type, and non-HDL, known as the bad. So in the past, you may have heard as bad cholesterol being referred to as LDL cholesterol. So LDL cholesterol is a form of non-HDL, but we now know of other forms of non-HDL which are damaging too, which is why we use the term non-HDL to describe the bad cholesterol. So what are the risks of high cholesterol? We do need cholesterol in our body to keep our cells healthy, but too much non-HDL causes a buildup of the fatty substance called atheroma in our arteries, which other times can lead to blockage, preventing blood flow and eventually causing stroke and/or a heart attack. So when we hear the term high cholesterol, this refers especially to the amount of non-HDL or bad cholesterol in our bodies. As we have just heard, high cholesterol levels increase our risk of developing cardiovascular diseases. There are rarely symptoms of high cholesterol, and anyone can develop high cholesterol despite our weight, body shape, or age. However, the chances are higher for certain individuals, and these individuals include men, those with a family history of high cholesterol, and individuals with for individuals with African, Caribbean, South Asian, Chinese, or Japanese origin. And according to the figures from Heart UK, there are 2.3 million people in the UK living with coronary heart disease, and every 5 minutes, someone in the UK will have a stroke. So this leads us on to looking at cholesterol levels. So, as high cholesterol is very common, according to Heart UK, over half of all adults in England have raised cholesterol, and between 7 to 8 million adults in the UK are currently taking medication to help lower their cholesterol. So what do we class as high cholesterol? Cholesterol levels are measured as total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and non-HDL cholesterol. So generally, we should aim for a total cholesterol level below 5 millimoles per litre and LDL cholesterol levels below 3 millimoles per litre. The British Heart Foundation reports that high non-HDL levels are associated with a quarter of all coronary heart and cardiovascular diseases in the UK. Individuals who are at higher risk or those who already have coronary heart disease may be advised to aim for lower levels. We can see in the table that the total cholesterol tells us the combined amount of HDL and non-HDL cholesterol. However, even with a healthy total cholesterol level, it is still possible that we may have an unhealthy balance between the HDL and non-HDL. High cholesterol can be picked up on a simple blood test carried out by a healthcare professional. So if you have any concerns or are worried that you may have high cholesterol, it is best to speak to your GP, who may recommend a blood test. Because there are no symptoms of high cholesterol, many people only discover they have high cholesterol when more serious conditions arise, such as angina, which is chest pain due to the narrowing of the arteries. So getting a test through your GP is the best way to find out your cholesterol levels. Triglyceride levels are often checked at the same time as cholesterol. Triglycerides are another type of fat which is stored in our body's fat cells, and high triglyceride levels also include the risk of heart disease because they contribute to the narrowing of the arteries. An important point to note here is that even though you may have healthy levels of cholesterol in all of the categories we mentioned before, you may have a raised triglyceride level, which could put you at increased risk of heart disease. So what causes high cholesterol? Unfortunately, like we said earlier, cholesterol can be genetic, meaning that some people inherit it from their parents, which is a condition known as familial hypercholesterolemia, also known as FH. So around 1 in every 250 people are thought to have FH in the UK. and medication is generally the main treatment for individuals living with FH. However, making changes to the diet will contribute towards lowering the non-HDL levels and lowers the overall risk of heart disease. We also know that our overall health can affect cholesterol levels. For example, being overweight can lead to high cholesterol. Medical conditions such as type 2 diabetes, underactive thyroid, kidney and liver disease may also lead to high cholesterol levels. However, the main causes of high cholesterol are eating foods high in saturated fat, not being physically active, smoking, and having too much body fat, especially around the middle. Fortunately, these are all linked to the choices that we make day to day, so we do have control over these factors and can make a change. And this is what we're going to focus on today. So I'm now going to pass you over to Fern, who's going to talk to us about how to avoid high cholesterol.
Fabulous, thank you, Ellie. Well, now that we've seen what causes cholesterol, hopefully you'll all see there is a lot that we can do to avoid these high cholesterol levels. And we are going to look at the dietary changes that we can all make to reduce the risk of developing high cholesterol, and how this, along with increasing our physical activity, can support a healthy weight maintenance and lower the risk of developing coronary heart disease. So what is a heart protective diet? Well, it's a way of eating which takes on board the key messages from the Eat Well guide and focuses on supporting our heart health. And as we've learned, heart health and cholesterol levels are closely linked. The Eat Well guide is an illustration which shows us the UK guidelines for achieving a healthy, balanced diet. It shows us how we can choose a variety of foods from all 5 food groups to support our health, and it demonstrates the proportions in which we should aim to eat these foods. We can see on the screen here that the 5 food groups are the fruit and vegetables, carbohydrates, which are foods like our bread, rice, pasta, the beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat and other proteins, our dairy and alternatives, and our oils and spreads. That's the very thin purple slice that we can see on the screen. Now, you are able to eat those foods containing cholesterol, which Ellie mentioned earlier, so things like eggs or seafood. These can form part of a healthy, balanced diet, and this should not affect our cholesterol levels so much, but rather it's the amount and types of fat which we consume which have the biggest effect on our cholesterol levels. We are going to look at some of the key messages from the Eat Well guide in more detail, but before we do, a quick note on salt. Why? Well, we know that consuming too much salt in our diets can lead to high blood pressure. If we already have risk factors for coronary heart disease, such as high cholesterol levels, or we're overweight, a high blood pressure is going to increase our risk further. Maintaining a healthy blood pressure is therefore an important focus for us all. Current recommendations state that adults should have no more than 6 grams of salt per day, which is equivalent to a teaspoon. For children, that's much less again. Yet it is very easy to eat much more than this, and in the UK, our average actual intake is almost 9 grams of salt each day. 75% of our salt intake comes from food products with added salt. So, for example, those things like ketchup, cheese, olives, processed meats, stock cubes, and even hot chocolates contain added salt. And many of us also add salt to our foods in our cooking or at the table. Try to be mindful of this and use things like spices and herbs, garlic or chili and other flavour options instead, and choose those reduced salt products where possible in order to reduce your salt intake and protect your heart. So one of the key focuses for following a heart protective diet is choosing foods which are low in saturated fat. Now, according to Heart UK, almost half of the UK adults are eating more saturated fat than recommended. And we know that one of the main causes of high cholesterol is a diet high in saturated fats. But just how do these fats affect our cholesterol levels? Cholesterol is made and broken down in our liver, as we saw in the video earlier. And our liver cells have LDL, or bad cholesterol, receptors in them. And when the LDL cholesterol passes by in the blood, these receptors take the cholesterol out of the blood and into the liver to be broken down. Research suggests that eating too much saturated fat stops the receptors from working so well, and the cholesterol, particularly the bad cholesterol, builds up in the blood. Although we need some fat in our diets to support our bodies to enable the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins, which are really important for our heart health and for our bone health, as a nation, we are eating a bit too much. Now, of course, we all do enjoy the occasional takeaway or some cake or crisps or maybe some chocolates, but the key is to have these foods occasionally and in small amounts. That's because they're high in fat, but especially they're often high in saturated fat, which is one of the main causes of high cholesterol. Now, unsaturated fat can help reduce the bad cholesterol and increase the good cholesterol. And we can choose unsaturated options, such as rapeseed oils or olive oils for cooking. We can also consider alternative cooking methods. For example, we may choose to poach our eggs instead of frying, and we could also bake our fish in the oven, for example, again, instead of frying. And this will help to reduce our overall fat intake. There are also ingredient swaps that can be made. For example, chicken or turkey are leaner meats than beef or ham. And it is recommended that we all aim to reduce our red and fatty meat consumption, instead opting for those leaner meats more often. And beans and pulses and lentils are a great option for us to add in to those one-pot wonders in place of, or sometimes as a 50-50 swap for meat, because they are low in fat and high in fibre, and they are often cheaper too. Well, we couldn't talk about cholesterol today without mention of those food products which claim to support healthy cholesterol levels. Low-fat vegetable spreads or milk drinks, which have added stanols or sterols, are often cited as being a useful product in the management of cholesterol. But what exactly are stanols and sterols, and is it true that they can support to manage our cholesterol levels? Stanols and sterols are compounds which are found naturally in plant foods such as our vegetable oils and our cereals, beans and lentils, nuts and seeds. And so many of us will be getting small amounts of these stanols and sterols in our diets already. Stanols and sterols work, they both work to reduce the absorption of cholesterol in the gut, meaning that less cholesterol makes its way into our blood, and they can therefore assist in lowering cholesterol levels. But it isn't essential to include stanols or sterols in our diet to manage our cholesterol. It's just that some people may choose to as an additional way to support this. According to the British Dietetic Association, products like Flora, Benacle and those spreads that contain plant sterols or stanols may help to lower cholesterol, but there is limited evidence to show this will reduce the risk of heart disease. So the advice is that we still need to follow a heart protective diet. If you do choose to consume these products, it's recommended to have them at meal times in order to increase the effectiveness, because they work by mixing with other foods in our gut. Now, how much would we need to consume to see any benefit? Well, studies have shown that consuming between 1.5 grams or 2.5 grams a day can help to reduce cholesterol levels. And one fortified mini yogurt drink contains approximately 2 grams of stanols or sterols. And if you're using the fortified spreads, 2 teaspoons would give you between 0.5 and 0.8 grams of the stanols or sterols. A final point is that it has been noted that stanols and sterols may impair the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins in our bodies. So these are vitamins A, D, E and K. But again, if we follow a heart protective diet rich in fruit and vegetables, nuts and omega-3s and unsaturated fats, then this can be compensated for. An important source of dietary fat, and it's another type of unsaturated fat, is our omega-3 fatty acids. We need omega-3s for several important functions throughout our bodies, In particular, they can support our heart health, helping to lower our blood pressure, preventing blood clots, and even lowering those triglyceride levels, which lowers our risk of heart disease overall. There are three main types of omega-3. There's the ALA, which is alpha linoleic acid. We've got EPA and also DHA. But ALA is the important one because this is an essential fatty acid, which means we cannot make it in our bodies. And the only way we can get it in is through the food that we eat. Oily fishes then, such as mackerel, salmon, sardines, trouts, kippers, these all provide us with omega-3. And we should aim to eat at least one portion of oily fish a week. Pregnant women are advised not to exceed 2 portions of oily fish a week, and this is due to the potential mercury levels. But if you're not a fan of the fish, we can also get omega-3s from nuts and seeds, such as walnuts, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, and from our rapeseed oils. And although there are no set measurements for our daily intake, it's thought that eating just 6 walnut halves a day, for example, may give us an adequate amount of omega-3. Nuts then are a really important part of our diets, and there's increasing evidence to show that including them in our diets can help to reduce the risk of heart disease also. As well as being a good source of protein, B vitamins, vitamin E, iron, potassium, multiple nutrients are found in nuts, and they are a source of unsaturated fat also. And these types of fat can improve our HDL or our good cholesterol levels and reduce our non-HDL or the bad cholesterol levels. Nuts are also a dietary source of the plants stanols and sterols, which, as we've just seen, can also support to lower cholesterol levels. And it's easy to add nuts into our diets. They can make a convenient snack. They can be added into cereals or into your porridge or even into stir fries. And my particular favourite, spread on toast as, peanut butter classic. And a surprising fact, according to the British Heart Foundation, peanut butter has now overtaken jam as the UK's most popular spread. And this is great news for us because if we are choosing to have things like peanut butter and nut spreads, they are a source of unsaturated fats. There is an array of choice when it comes to nut butters, but try to choose those which state 100% nuts on the label. This ensures that the only ingredient is the nut itself. Other types of nut butters or the flavoured nut butters often have added salt or oil, which is often palm oil. And palm oil is a type of saturated fat. And these types are generally going to be higher in calories and saturated fat. Similarly then, it's best to choose unsalted nuts or plain varieties where possible. And although those honey roasted varieties are really tasty, they are best eaten only very occasionally and in small amounts. I'm going to hand back to Ellie now, who's going to talk us through the benefits of a really important nutrient called fibre. So thank you very much, Ellie.
Thank you. Yes, so fibre. So in the UK, less than 10% of adults are meeting the fibre recommendations of 30 grams per day, and many of us are only managing between 12 and 13 grams a day. And fibre has a huge benefit for our health, and there are 2 types. So the first type is insoluble fibre, which helps with digestion. The insoluble forms of fibre found in fruit and vegetable skins and whole grain foods are often referred to as roughage, and this helps with the transit of our food as well as helping us to feel fuller for longer. This can support the maintenance of a healthy weight, as we are less likely to overeat if we feel full and less likely to choose the higher calorie snack options. The second type is soluble fibre. So soluble fibre is found in foods like oats, some fruits and mushrooms. These foods contain beta-glucan, which helps to mop up the bad cholesterol and removes it from our blood. Including oats in our diet, for example, having porridge for breakfast or sprinkling some toasted oats onto your yogurt can be one way to support healthy cholesterol levels. Increasingly, research is showing how important the inclusion of fibre is in our diet, as it supports our good gut bacteria. And good gut bacteria are vital for overall health, assisting our body's immune defence, vitamin production, and digestive functions. A diet high in fibre can reduce our risk of developing conditions such as type 2 diabetes, bowel cancer, heart disease, and of course, fibre has an important role to play in helping us maintain healthy cholesterol levels. Other examples of fibre-rich foods include whole grain bread, whole wheat pasta, beans, pulses, nuts, seeds, and of course, fruit and vegetables. It is quite easy to make some small swaps to meals throughout the day in order to boost our fibre intake. We can see on the table that switching to whole grain options and including more fruit and vegetables in our diet can ensure we reach that 30 gram a day target. So moving on to carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are an extremely important part of a healthy, balanced diet, as they provide us with a variety of key nutrients, as well as giving us the energy we need to carry out our day-to-day life. However, there are links between refined carbohydrates and cholesterol. Refined carbohydrates have been processed to remove many other nutrients they usually have, like fibre, which we mentioned. As you can see on the screen, there are examples of refined carbohydrates. So these are things like our white bread and pastries. As we mentioned, we do need carbohydrates in our body, but reducing the amount of refined carbohydrates we have can help reduce our cholesterol levels. This is because having too many refined carbs can trick our liver into thinking that it needs to produce more cholesterol. So when choosing your carbohydrates, try to have the whole grain, whole wheat options. So for example, wholemeal breads or whole wheat pasta. We aren't encouraging you to go off and follow a really low carb diet like the keto diet or the Atkins diet, as we know these are often high in saturated animal fats, which can affect cholesterol. But generally, we do all have room to reduce our intake and choose the high fibre options where possible. And the next slide we're going to look at is vitamin D. So vitamin D is also an extremely important part for our health, as it absorbs the calcium for our diet to keep our bones, teeth and muscles strong. And this can help reduce the risk of developing brittle bone disease, such as rickets, which is seen most commonly in children, or osteoporosis as we grow older. But you may be wondering why vitamin D has anything to do with cholesterol. But vitamin D is linked to cholesterol because we need cholesterol in our skin cells to make the vitamin D from the sunlight. However, most of us are not getting enough vitamin D due to not being exposed to the sun very often, especially here in the UK. It is recommended that we all take a vitamin D supplement between October and March. However, if you are like me and don't get out much with your skin exposed through the summer, consider taking a vitamin D supplement all year round. The current recommendation set by the World Health Organization and UK government states that 10 micrograms as a suitable daily dose for the vitamin D supplement. And you can get these in most supermarkets and chemists. So what about alcohol, the favourite subject? According to Heart UK, 25% of adults in the UK exceed the national guidelines for weekly alcohol intake. In Wales, it is higher again, with 48% men and 36% women reportedly drinking more than the recommended weekly intake. But why does this matter? So drinking high levels of alcohol damages our liver, and the liver has an important role to play in the management of cholesterol levels in our blood. If our livers are damaged from drinking too much alcohol, we will be at greater risk of having high cholesterol levels. And the maximum alcohol intake per week is 14 units, and this is for both men and women. And as you can see on the screen, an example of 1 unit is half a pint of beer. And we're now going to move on to looking at a healthy weight.
Thank you, Ellie. Well, unfortunately, as we have learned, being overweight does increase our risk of developing high cholesterol and also our risk of developing heart disease. It is really important that we aim to achieve a healthy weight in order to support our health now, but also in the long term. Now, there are many elements to weight management that unfortunately we don't have time to cover with you today. However, if you are interested, we do offer a 9-week weight management programme called Foodwise for Life, and we will provide you with some more information at the end of the session about this. A few tips then, you can see on the screen, we've said to watch the sugar. We know that having lots of sugar in the diet can lead to weight gain. It can also be an idea to get in the habit of checking your food labels. So you'll see on the screen, this is an example of the traffic light system food labelling that you see on many food products these days. On the left is the label mostly with reds and ambers, and we recommend that you try to look for those labels that have more greens on them, as we can see on the right. It's quite rare to find a label with all greens, although it is possible, so challenge on for you all to find those green labels. You may have already heard of a BMI, the body mass index, as a measure of your weight. It gives an indication according to your weight and height of whether you may be underweight, a healthy weight or overweight. And a healthy BMI is considered to be between 18.5 and 24.9. However, this is not the whole picture and BMI is only a guide, and it's sensible to consider other aspects of weight and size also. For example, a very fit and muscular rugby player may have a high BMI, but given that they are extremely physically active and that the bulk of their weight is likely to be in muscular and muscle mass, we would not consider them to have the same risks as another individual with the same BMI, but who lived a sedentary lifestyle and was carrying excess fat. There is also clear indication that our body shape influences our risk factors for coronary heart disease, and you may have heard people talk about apple and pear shapes. The pear shape describes those people that carry their weight predominantly on the bottom half, whereas the apple shape describes those individuals with excess weight around the middle of their body, and this is what raises our risk of heart disease and conditions such as type 2 diabetes. Carrying excess weight, in particular fat around the middle of our bodies, is one of the key risk factors of high cholesterol. So to consider BMI again, it may just be that you have a healthy BMI but are carrying excess weight around the middle, in which case you are likely at higher risk of heart disease and maybe high cholesterol levels also. So to make things a bit simpler for us all, there are evidence-based guidelines for our waist measurements, and waist measurements can be used to help us understand our risk of heart disease also. To measure your waist, you'll need to locate the bottom of your ribs and the top of your hips, and then you can place a tape measure around the middle at the halfway point between these, just above the belly button. You should make sure that your tape measure is pulled tight, but you don't want it to be digging into your skin. And we do have a table here on the screen to show us the levels. We've got high risk levels and very high risk. And you'll notice that there is a difference, there are different guidelines for men and women. And again, for men and women with African, Caribbean, South Asian, Chinese or Japanese origin. And this is because these individuals tend to carry more fat and less muscle at the same weight as other ethnicities. So remember, this is just one tool which can help us to recognise our risk for high cholesterol and or heart disease, but you should always speak with your GP if you have a concern. So we're going to look at how being more physically active can support us to manage our cholesterol levels. Now, there is still ongoing research being done about how physical activity can affect cholesterol, but we do know that it can support to lower our non-HDL levels and to raise our HDL or our good levels. Being less sedentary may be a challenge for some of us, especially in recent times when many of us have been working from home and living from the comfort of our sofas or dining room tables. But it is really important that we try to be as active as possible whenever we can, regardless of our levels of fitness or our ability or lifestyle. The latest figures show that 37% of adults in the UK do not meet the physical activity recommendations. And those current recommendations set by the UK government advise that all adults try to spend at least 150 minutes a week being active. But it doesn't have to be all in one go. You can do 30 minutes a day over 5 days, for example. And even then, it can help to make it more manageable by breaking it down into smaller chunks of time. So, for example, planning in 3 lots of 10-minute blocks of activity in your day can be a useful way to make sure that you are working towards that activity target. There are lots of options available to us, and across Wales, here in Powys too, we have access to something called the National Exercise Referral Scheme. And this offers reduced rate exercise sessions to individuals living with or at risk of developing a long-term condition. The service is led by professionals who can support individual needs, tailoring the sessions to accommodate any health needs you might have. And you can speak to your GP about whether this is an option for you. There are also lots of online exercise videos these days, and we can select these to help us keep active at home. And also check out the local activities in your area. There are examples of those exercise videos on the NHS website and on the Heart UK website as well. And finally today, we just want to make a quick mention about smoking. We know that smoking is one of the key risk factors for high cholesterol, and it's one of the things that we can change. Smoking brings harmful chemicals into our bodies, and the tar from the tobacco will build up over time, leaving a residue in our arteries. And this can eventually lead to a blockage, leading to heart attack or stroke. We have already learned how high levels of the non-HDL or the bad cholesterol can have the same effect in our arteries, causing a gradual narrowing. And the tar from smoking can actually make it easier for the cholesterol to stick to the linings of our arteries, increasing the risk of heart attack or stroke. But the good news is that there is a support available to you. And if you are interested in stopping smoking, we'd recommend visiting the website Help Me Quit. And this will help you to find the appropriate support option for you in your area. Or alternatively, you may wish to speak to your GP or pharmacist who will be able to connect you with the relevant support. So that brings us to the end of today's session, and I am just going to hand back to Ellie now for a quick summary, please.
Yes, so we hope that's given you more of an insight to cholesterol. And as Fern said, we have come to the end of today's session. So before we open up for any questions, we just summarised the information that we've looked at today. So as discussed, there are no symptoms of high cholesterol. So if you are worried you may have high cholesterol, speak to your GP, who may advise to have a blood test to check your cholesterol levels. So you can give them a call and explain that you're concerned, and then they'll be able to advise if having a blood test is appropriate for you. As I mentioned, some individuals will be more at risk of developing high cholesterol. So this is because it can be inherited from your parents, or if you are male, or individuals from African, Caribbean, South Asian, Chinese or Japanese origin. But the good news is, as we've mentioned, is you can make a difference. So focusing on your diet, your physical activity levels and maintaining a healthy weight will make a big difference to lowering your cholesterol levels. And we have got some useful links that we will share with you in the chat box at the end of the session, so you can explore these more, and they've got lots of information on. And also, as Fern mentioned, the Foodwise service that we offer, we've got the information there for you to have a look at, so you can refer in to us if that's something you're interested in. So we'll now open up the chat box, so you can send in any questions you have for us, and we'll try and answer them as best as we can. So we'll just give you a couple of minutes now to send in any questions you have for us. Okay, Fan, I'm going to test your knowledge now. We've had a couple of questions come through. So the first question we've had is, which is the most important change to focus on to start with?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So if you've perhaps recognised that you'd like to make a change in all of the areas we've talked about today, we'd recommend that you start with the one that's going to be easiest for you to achieve to begin with, and this way that positive effect will give you the confidence then to make changes in other areas. But we do encourage you to make small changes to begin with, and then that will build your confidence. So no easy answer there, but start small.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there, Fern. Thank you. The next question we have is, I eat a plant-based diet and I don't think I need to worry about all the advice around fats because I'm not eating animal fats, which tends to be so high in saturated fat. Am I right?
Oh, that's a great question. It's true that the saturated fats that we're consuming tend to come largely from animal sources. However, plant-based sources of saturated fat do exist. So foods like your coconut oils, for example, are very high in saturated fat. And actually, gram for gram, coconut oil is higher in saturated fat than butter, for example. Another way that you might be having saturated fat by following a plant-based or vegan diet would be through products such as we talked about earlier, those nut butters or pestos or biscuits, all of those things that might have had things added into them. So palm oil is the common one that does get added into these products, and that is a saturated fat. So we would encourage you to check your labels, start looking at the back of the packaging, and where possible, choose those sort of whole foods, lots of fresh fruit and vegetable, your lean meats, your pulses, and low-fat dairy as well is going to be your dairy alternatives, I should say, if you're following a plant-based diet.
Great, thank you. And we've just got two more questions to share. So the next one is, I really enjoy butter on my toast and really don't like the alternatives like sunflower and olive spreads. Can I still enjoy butter and avoid developing high cholesterol?
Okay, so simple answer I'd like to give you is yes, you can still enjoy your butter. I can't definitely give you assurances about your cholesterol levels, but butter can definitely form part of a healthy, balanced diet. Although it's a saturated fat, if we think about the amounts that we're having, so I'd encourage you to think about how often you're having it. If it's something you're having every day on the toast in the morning and for your sandwiches at lunch, it may be that you look to reduce the times you're having it, but also think about the amount you're having it on. Again, you can think about having some alternatives. So nut butter's great alternative because you've got that unsaturated fat source, or you could think about something like your low-fat cheese as well, just as an alternative. But definitely it can still be part of that healthy, balanced diet. Just try to have less of it less often.
Fantastic, thank you. And the last question that we'll go for is, I have high cholesterol and have been prescribed statins. Is this safe to include Stanols and Sterols in my diet alongside this medication?
Okay, so when it comes to medications, we would always advise you to speak to your GP or your health professional that's prescribed that medication for you in order to get the professional advice on that. So I wouldn't want to give any definite answer there. Just go back and check in with your GP on that one. Hope that helps. Do we have any more questions there?
No, I think that's all the questions we've had. So thank you. And I hope that's helped the people that had the questions, and thank you for sending them in. So we are at the end of the session, and we have got some further resources to send to you and also an evaluation form. So we would be really grateful if you could fill that evaluation form in, just so we can improve in the future for any webinars that we do on the health campaigns. So we'll pop the further resources into the chat box, and also we'll as we said, the presentation is going to be available on the Facebook page and YouTube channel. So we'll also put the links available there as well for you to click into. But we would just like to say thank you all for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed the session this afternoon.
Yes, thank you so much. Diolch yn fawr.